Hello and welcome to an ETV special presentation of Meet the Provost. I'm your host, Randall Beyer. Our guest today is Dr. Kim Schatzel, Provost and Executive Vice President of Academic and Student Affairs here at Eastern Michigan University. Dr. Schatzel is EMU's Chief Academic Officer, and broadly speaking, her office serves both faculty and students in support of their teaching, their learning, and their overall academic growth. Provost Schatzel, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm really excited to be here.
Good, glad you're here. And of course, the first question is about what you do as a provost. What does a provost do?
Yeah, well, provost, as you mentioned, the fact that was pretty long, but to really boil it down is the fact that I'm responsible for student learning inside and outside the classroom. So I work with faculty, students, and staff to be able to provide for the high quality environment for learning. It's a little unique to Eastern. Traditionally what you see is provosts are chief academic officers, and we have other folks that are in student affairs that handle the experience for the students outside of the classroom. We've decided to put the two of them together because for the student, they're not thinking about the fact that, you know, I'm in a classroom one minute, I'm living in the res halls in another, I'm going to events, I'm part of student organizations. All of those curricular and co-curricular experiences develop them as individuals and provide them the opportunity to explore possible ideas, thoughts, career paths. So putting them together is something that we decided to do, and it's working very, very well.
Yeah, you've taken reins of both sides of the academic pursuit, and I think most students tend to see everything through their professors, really. Yeah. So on a day-to-day level, what do you do as a provost that actually makes a difference to students, matters to students?
Well, I think one of the things that I try and do is to stay close with the students and the faculty to listen. I mean, one of the things that I've talked about is the fact that I love my job, but one of the things that I miss is that when I was a dean, I was in an academic building, so I could walk out in the hallways and students were walking around and faculty were walking around, and I could really talk to them. So I spent a lot of my time trying to stay close to the students and stay close to faculty to hear what are the priorities, what are the concerns, what are the opportunities that we can be able to change. But my job is really spent in everything from dealing with budgetary decisions to talking about what new programs we need to develop, the hiring of faculty as well as their retention and development, taking a look at advising is a big initiative that we have on campus to be able to support the students. So it's everything. It makes the job really exciting. Every day I wake up and am able to work with the staff and the faculty and the students to be able to advance things. One of the things that we're not quite there yet in terms of the educational, having one umbrella over it. I always say the fact that my title is we're the Division of Academic and Student Affairs. But that's kind of like having ham and eggs on the same plate. They're together, but they're separate. So I really think over time we're really going to see a real integration of those two activities. And I'm even hopeful to consider the fact we start calling it educational affairs to really show the fact that it is an integrative effort in pursuit of those goals.
So I can imagine your day is really busy with all kinds of things coming at you.
It's good busy.
Yeah,
it's good busy.
Because there's questions of from all levels. So if you could say there's a typical day, what's your day like? What activities go on?
It's meetings, okay? I mean, if somebody was going to say, what do you do a lot of, is I meet with folks basically to, and really what I say is with my job is the fact that I create momentum. If I was going to say what I do, and I always talk about the fact I'm not really responsible for any one thing, but I meet with the folks that I work with and that I work for and that work for me to be able to talk about the challenges they have, the opportunities, the things that we're moving forward. And a large part of what I do is try and clear the road in front of them, or to be able to provide resources to them, or even just provide for a coaching moment. That if they are or if they're looking at opportunities that they want to be able to advance, how can I be able to support them? How can I coach them through those efforts? Because it's a big institution, and you know, it's a big institution. You know, it's what everybody's doing every single day. There's so many people that have a part of this. So my job is to really foster the success of all the folks that I work with.
You mentioned academic advising, and you mentioned coaching moment. I'm going to go off script a little bit because I think that's changed a lot since you've come here. You noticed something about advising and about getting students from freshman year or as FIDIAC or whatever, their first year in college to graduation. Tell me something about that. How do you influence that kind of trajectory?
Well, one of the things that we learned of is the fact that 40% of our students were not satisfied with advising. We did a senior exit survey, and that's what it said. But we're typical. 40% of students nationwide are not satisfied with advising.
Okay.
So we started doing a deep dive in terms of what was going on, and one of the things that we looked at was the fact that we didn't have technologies for students to be able to be aware of where they fit with academic programs. Mm-hmm. So we made a fairly significant investment so that the students could go online. They could take a look at what courses they needed to take for their degree program. They could do what-ifs. If I switch majors, what does that do for me? What other courses do I have to take? We also made an investment in advisors to make it easy for students to be able to access advisors, to be able to talk through that process. Mm-hmm. We opened up the Parker Center in the Student Center, which is an advising center, right where the students are all the time, rather than having to find it.
Advising on demand, so
Advising on demand where they are.
Right. Yeah.
So it's really providing that support to the students, both in technology as well as professional support. Mm-hmm. And what it did was that we wanted to really make sure that the faculty, when they were doing the faculty advising, could use the time to talk about career interests. That if I wanted to go and be a veterinarian, for example, what courses should I take? Right. If I wanted to go into social work, what courses should I take? If I was interested in care of the aging, what courses should I take? Versus I have these courses for gen ed and I'm thinking of a minor in here, and really dealing with the transactions. And we really wanted to take that off so the faculty could focus on what they would do best, really what their expertise was. Yeah. And I think it's been a win-win for everyone.
It's sort of like at that level of age and decisions, it's about sort of thinking about a life decision.
Absolutely.
At a particular level of experience. Yep. Or whatever. Speaking of life decisions, you're on a career path, and I'm always interested in what brings people to a certain point in their life. What kind of career path have you been on? What kind of decision points in your life have kind of led you to this kind of moment?
Place?
Yeah.
I'm not typical as a provost in the fact that I spent 20 years in industry. Mm-hmm. Before I got my PhD. I got my PhD at 43. So I took graduate level econometrics when I was, 40 years old and hadn't had calculus.
That's courageous.
In almost 20 years. Yes, it was. So I was fortunate to have some colleagues in my doctoral program that were very sympathetic with me and shared that. So I really had a business and sold the business and decided to take a few years to decide what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And for whatever reason, I thought about going back and getting a PhD. And it wasn't an epiphany. I didn't wake up and suddenly saw the light.
I want to be a provost.
I want to be a provost.
Yeah.
I truly enjoyed the work in terms of both the research and the teaching. I was very, very happy being a faculty member, marketing faculty member, and was teaching and doing research in that area. Mm-hmm. And we had a new dean that came into my college, and he asked me, because of my industry background, to go into his office to work on external relations and industry affairs. Mm-hmm. And it just kind of went from there.
And it clicked.
And it clicked. And I'm blessed in the fact that I've had 2 great careers. I really, really love what I do now. Being with students, being with faculty is just a tremendous thing. I just say, I always say that I can't believe I get paid to do this, because of the fact that every single day I learn from other people, and I'm able to be with students when they're really at a transformational phase of their lives.
Yeah. So you really like where you're at right now?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. I love my job.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
I really
good.
do. I love being
well,
provost.
it helps as well. It helps anybody in their life
does.
when they're really turned on to what they do. You mentioned the faculty side in this. And we're going to take a break in a couple minutes, but what is a common area of interest where your faculty chops come out and then your student sensitivities or whatever mix, or how do you separate those two and work them together?
As a former faculty member, I think that everybody is always looking at the student. Okay, when you're in the classroom, you're looking at the student experience, you're looking at the student success. We all know the fact that, at least when I was teaching, I'd be teaching a class and then I'd do a check-in of the fact of, did this click for them? Is this working? Am I being clear? Am I taking the teaching moments that I need to be able to do?
Yeah, yeah.
Am I also, because I was a business school faculty, we were talking about professional development. So I think there really is no separation in the fact that I have to put on a faculty hat or a student hat.
Interesting.
Because the
Yeah.
faculty are deeply committed to the students' success. And the students, as we all know, when people graduate, particularly because of the commitment to teaching, the faculty make a significant impact on our students' development. And the students recognize it, and it makes the institution special to them.
Yeah. So you want to be in the middle of that loop, that feedback loop.
Yep.
But certainly having been in the classroom.
Not too long ago either.
Yeah, that's good. You've told me you have a daughter. I know this is coming up on the break, so tell me a little bit about yourself as a college student parent. Then when we come back, we might talk about the reflections, what that brings about, thinking about that.
Yeah, I think that probably, and as I'm sure many have the same thing, being in higher ed, we often get asked by friends of ours who are parents about advice or what's going on in terms of college.
Right.
I think one of the things having a parent, and I've had of a college-age student, I think one of the things that I'm sensitive to is the fact of independence. I think one of the things that's happened, and we all talk about helicopter parents,
right.
Is increasingly, and we're all feeling it and we're all seeing it, that the level of involvement of the parents, although we want them to be involved in their students' life and their engagement is there, that the independence and being able to foster the independence of the students to make choices, to do exploration, to deal with dispute resolution, to be able to operate that way is real important.
Great. We'll come back to that
Okay,
in a
thanks.
few minutes.
Pterosaurs are often called pterodactyls because of the structure of their wing. Pterodactyl, in fact, means winged finger, and the wing did indeed consist solely of a large finger. Pterosaurs was enormously large. A membrane of skin extended from the tip of this finger to either the side of the body or the hind limbs.
So now it's midterms, and you seem to be missing some steps between the evolution of mammals and the first space shuttle? Easier said than done, you say? Well, for starters, try and get down the main points. Then if you have time, get down some examples. Abbreviate frequently used names. Make Martin Luther King. Oedipus Rex can be places. Abbreviate any frequently used words. You're also more likely to retain the material if you review your notes as soon as possible and recopy them so they're more legible, highlighting the high points.
You're an individualist, a person who can stand against all adversity.
But your grades suck.
Group study.
The best way to learn is to try and teach someone else. And when you study with someone else, you can compare notes and better determine what will be on the test. You can use the quiz bowl method.
What's the airspeed velocity of a laden English swallow?
50 in numbers. If there's a problem you all have on a test, you can go to the professor as a group.
And always, try and study with people who are stronger students than yourself.
Welcome back. We're talking with Dr. Kim Schatzel, who is Provost of Eastern Michigan University. And we were talking about having college-age children and the issue of the helicopter parent generation and how that affects their going to school and what they might expect.
Right. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, when my parents, there was a huge generation gap. But our children grew up with us kind of looking the same, wearing the same clothes, listening to the same music, going to the same movies. So there's a connectedness, I think, students and parents today that is very different than in the past. And I think that connectedness also moves over to all their experiences. They seek the opinions of their parents more often, and it's been shown with surveys, than you saw past generations. That also means the fact that we do want our parents engaged. It's very important to have parental engagement in terms of the student success as well. But their development as individuals, particularly if you're taking an 18-year-old, these are formative years, 18 to 21, living at home away from home for the first time, meeting people that don't look like you, don't have the same values as you, don't speak like you. To be able to sort those things out and become an independent person is really, really important. And sometimes the students trip and fall, or they bounce against walls, or they have to learn some lessons, some easy, some hard. But that's all part of their development. When we talk to the parents, and I'm in the same spot. I mean, sometimes it's hard to watch your child struggle with things, but out of that comes development, comes emotional, social, and psychological growth. So I think it's really important to be able to, and we coach the parents through that quite a bit when it comes to Fast Track, which is our the student orientation that we go through, where we talk about the fact they're going to struggle with that, and give them some ideas to be able to facilitate the students becoming more independent on the campus. Now, we always want to be there for the students, and we always talk about the fact we have lots of resources, advising, CAPS, student organizations, the faculty. So it's not like they're just jettisoning their student without a support system underneath, but that what we're really trying to do is to look at it as an educational experience and how those have educational outcomes versus just fixing something.
Yes, right, yeah. Going through some kind of support process that they can. What is CAPS, by the way?
Counseling and Psychological Services.
Is that something that has that you've changed in since you've been here?
Very, very definitely. I mean, statistics are speaking to the fact that somewhere between 20 to 30% of college students today are coming to campus with some type of behavioral health issue. And so having CAPS there to be able to support the students is something that's important. So we're not just dealing with maybe 20 years ago if a student was struggling in school, it was because they were homesick, that they didn't like their roommate. In many cases, they're bringing to campus depression, much more serious issues that we have to be able to be supportive in terms of their behavioral health. Unfortunately, society at large is lagging in terms of behavioral health issues and a fragmentation in medical delivery for that. But we are very, very deliberate on campus, have a wonderful staff to be able to have that support mechanism for the students as well as for the faculty to feel referring students to professionals in behavioral health to give the kind of support that the students would need.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder if the students, this must be a big issue for you, about basically getting the word out. I mean, there seem to be so many, in any modern university now, so many opportunities for counseling or help, but you have to get that message to the student body in some way.
Right,
and be a concern.
It's something that we need to do it better and better every day. We have communication mechanisms that we use. We have, within student affairs, a lot of support to be able to do that. We also have doing student orientation as well as with all the student clubs and groups to be able to do it. You can Google it on the website if you're looking for it. But again, the more that we can get that out and have the students aware of the fact that, and it's free. It's a free resource for them to be able to do it as well and to make use of those facilities. But the more we can get the word out is what we try to do every single day. And you can't over-communicate support services. You really can't.
You've alluded to a lot of things that obviously you're making some pretty key decisions about. I mean, you have your hand in everything. As a provost, I think you have to. So this is more a rubber meets the road question. My question is, how can the decisions, but you've been showing us a lot about that, but how do you make an influence on real student success with support, with interactions with the faculty? How do all these things kind of get together?
Well, I think, first of all, putting organizationally the position, having student affairs and academic affairs is really key. The folks that I work with most directly, we all sit in a room, and we're dealing with folks that are deans as well as student affairs professionals, advising, we're dealing with ORD in terms of research and development. So all the folks that are there to be able to provide the support to the students and the faculty for success are sitting around the table together. Mm-hmm. So when we are talking about initiatives, when we are talking about opportunities or challenges that we have, all the voices can be heard, and we can all get on the same page very, very quickly. Again, as I said, I don't have the answers to everything. Mm-hmm. Working with the faculty, working with the staff is the thing that I really try and be able to do, right. Is to be able to hear all those voices. I try and be consultative with folks, and the biggest thing is the fact that I'd like to be able to make sure that the folks that I work with feel confident in terms of being able to make the decisions, and that the student is at the center of those decisions in terms of their success.
Right. Yeah. As I asked the question, I started thinking to myself, how do individual students judge their own success? I mean, it must be, okay, I got through 4 years, I'm graduating, that was my goal, I'm there. But maybe other students, and I'm self-reflecting here, think, well, maybe this isn't the right place for me right now, or man, I really need money, I have to take a year off, and things like that. Mm-hmm. It sounds like that's part of the background system here to what some of the things you're talking about. Oh,
very definitely. I mean, one of the things that we'll have is, and we have to actually be more intentional, and the advising has worked with that. Our students are typically 45 to 47% of our students are Pell Grant eligible. Mm-hmm. So we're talking about students where money is a big issue in terms of their ability to progress to degree.
For our university,
absolutely,
it's a
major issue. So to be able to have advising so that the students can progress to degree and not wander, and be able to make sure that cause them to progress to degree, that we can have plan Bs for them if they decide that they're not interested in this, how about taking a look at these other majors, but quickly provide intervention with them to have those kind of discussions so that they're not taking courses that, although they're interesting and we're all going to get educated to it, but they understand the fact that they're using up their financial aid eligibility. That's the worst possible case, is the fact that we have a student that's 15 credits from getting their degree and they run out of financial aid.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a tragedy to be able to have occur. So marrying everything with the advising financial aid, Service EMU is opened up another site in McKinney, and that's really bringing a one-stop shop to the students so they can go and get advising, they can go and understand what their bills are, they can understand their registration, they can go to one place rather than 3 floors in 4 different buildings at Pierce, because that's really the question they're asking is, I want to do this, how does with my degree program, how much do I have with financial aid? What if I go down to 12 credits versus 9 credits? And they can talk to one person that can take them through the various scenarios and support their decision.
In your experience with students at EMU, I know we are very different. One of the most diverse. I've heard other faculty members and other students say this is one of the most diverse populations.
Absolutely. It's one of the things.
Big issue for us.
It's one of the things that makes us attractive to students and faculty. Folks that want to be in a diverse environment are attracted to coming to this institution.
Right, yeah. How does that influence some of the decisions you're thinking about, initiatives that you're thinking about? I was going to ask you, what are some new initiatives that you're excited about, because I wanted to finish on that note.
Well, one of the things, degree completion and retention has been something that I started probably about 3 years ago in terms of working with faculty and staff on. Eastern has about a 40% graduation rate. It's the second lowest in the state. It's not acceptable. And we need to be able to improve it. There's no silver bullet. There's no home run. There's hundreds of things that, as we talked about, we needed to address, from advising to systems to understanding the degree completion programs, supporting the students in terms of the decisions and making it acceptable. So there's lots of pieces to it. But one of the things that's part of it that I'm quite proud of is the fact that we have 2 special initiatives that are part of that program. One is the Students of Color Initiative, and the other is Single Parents. And we pulled those out as demographic groups that have unique characteristics that influence their ability to complete their degree. Both of those groups have degree completions in 6 years that are below 20%. And when you take a look at those 2 groups, they have unique things that a general degree completion support system wouldn't address. For example, single parents, the number one determinant of whether they're going to graduate or not is access to quality childcare.
Yeah. Yeah.
You wouldn't see that in a typical degree completion program. But interestingly enough, 25% of undergraduates in the United States today are parents. So what people used to call non-traditional is traditional.
Becoming traditional.
It's traditional.
Yeah. Yeah.
So addressing these opportunity areas that we have is really the fact that we're leading edge. And one of the reasons that I'm excited about these 2-degree programs is we're a university. Mm-hmm. So to be able to look at these and be able to figure out what we can do better and what type of prescriptive practices we can put in place to be thought leaders when it comes to these two demographics and to be able to improve their graduation rate and their successes in college, I think is exactly what Eastern should be doing. Right. We're well positioned for it.
That's good. I know that you, just offline, you and I have talked about an initiative that you're going to work on with incoming students in the fall about, I guess you'd call it civility or,
right.
or respect and classroom behavior,
right.
but all levels of things.
Right, and I think I've talked to many students in the fact that coming to college for many students is the first time that they're around folks that look different than they do. And we're talking about race and ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity, and also in the classroom, as it should be, they're going to be challenged. We're going to be talking about issues, taking a look at different perspectives that are going to make you maybe not comfortable with where you come from in terms of your value systems or your means of thought. Right. That's part of being educated, right. is to feel uncomfortable, to be taken out of a comfort zone, to be able to put yourself in others' shoes. So, and I also look at it as a competency. Increasingly, we're talking about students getting jobs. Multicultural competency, to be able to deal with a diverse world, to be able to deal with talent that come from all different backgrounds and all different orientations is something that employers are looking for.
That's really true. I do have to stop us.
Okay. Well,
I'm sorry to cut you off. We're all both getting warmed up, but this has been a really wonderful opportunity to meet with our provost, and we're going to have me saying thank you for being with us. We've been talking with Kim Schatzel, Provost of Eastern Michigan University, for this special presentation of ETV called Meet the Provost. I want to thank you for being with us today.
It's been great.
Wonderful.
I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. And come back and see us next time. We'll have more in the future. This has been Randall Beyer, your host. Thank you.